Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, it is still Masters Week. And so I'm still talking like this in the introduction, and it is a big week of content for us. If you have not checked it out already, please go check out our video yesterday, where it was our 30-minute all-in-one breakdown of the Masters 2025. We took a look at Augusta National itself. We took a look at all the data and identified some guys that we like and don't like in all formats this week. Go check that out if you have not already. But since it's a major, since it's the Masters, we've got another episode coming your way. The Masters is a great time to look at different types of bets, including prop bets and all other markets that are available this week. And we're going to break down all of those bets and props that you can make this week here at the Masters, as well as strategy if you are playing in an office pool for the Masters this week. So we've got you covered with a lot of information here. We're going to talk about a lot of other golfers here in this episode. But if there's anybody that I didn't get to, let me know in the comments. I'll be more than happy to reply. And also go check out that previous episode as well, because it might have talked about them in there. But anyway, y'all, let's go ahead and dive in. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you can be with us for the rest of the PGA Tour season, as well as we get into the spring and summer, more of our best ball and then college football content, as well as all of our golf content. And then if this video helps you in any way, please hit the like button. It helps me out a ton when you guys do that. With it being a big week for golf, this is normally a big week for my channel, getting a lot of views, and the likes, the comments, the subscriptions, they help all that, and I really do appreciate it. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive in and let's take a look at the betting board. All right. So if you're watching on YouTube, we are using DraftKings Sportsbook as our sportsbook here for this one. It's just one that has, I think, one of the best interfaces, has a lot of the markets that I'm going to talk about. And so it's just a really easy one to use here. But obviously, if different books are available to you, feel free to shop around with the numbers. And also keep in mind, this is what I'm doing with my money. I'm not saying you should do it with yours. I'm just letting you know what I'm doing with mine. If someone you know has a problem gambling, 1-800-GAMBLER, call that hotline. All right. So let's go and take a look at the board for outright winners. Y'all, I have been like super headstrong about this like for months now. I do not bet golfers to win outright at super short odds. So as much as I think this is a great week for Scotty Scheffler and a great week for Rory McIlroy, even more so better than Rory McIlroy. And on yesterday's show, I even went out and said that I think Rory McIlroy is winning this golf tournament. I just can't get behind betting those two guys at 4-1 or 6.5-1. If you want to parlay it with somebody else doing top 20 or something like that, or somebody else making the cut or something like that, I can kind of get behind that, but I just don't like betting a golfer to win a major with all the other best golfers in the world at super short odds. I'm going to find other ways to get those guys in the action this week, such as playing them in DFS or in office pools, like we're going to talk about a little bit later. Now, one guy that I have bet to win this golf tournament is down the board a little bit. It is Shane Lowry. He's at 45-1 on DraftKings right now. I think that is a really solid number for Shane. We have seen him win a major so far in his career, and he has a pretty good history at Augusta National so far in his career. He has a third place finish here. This is a guy that is coming in with the best form that he probably ever has coming into Augusta National. His approach play is on fire. His off the tee game is always consistent. He's a good, crafty short game player. I think Shane really has the skill set that we're looking for at Augusta National. He always seems to contend in majors. He's been one of the best guys in this field in the majors in the last 5 years. So Shane Lowry is going to be one guy that I am betting to win outright at 45-1. Russell Henley is another guy that I'm going to put on that list at 55-1. Basically, he's another guy like Shane that he's coming into the Masters with the best form that he ever has. And he has a surprisingly good major track record, surprisingly good Masters track record. He is a Georgia Bulldog. And so he does have, history in this part of the country. And I just really think that when you look at his game coming in, it's the best it's ever been. If you follow Data Golf has been a Russell Henley truther for about the last year now. And I think it's time that all that data, all that approach play that we've seen with Russell Henley finally turns itself into a major win. And then the other guy that I like this week as an outright bet is going to be Robert McIntyre on DraftKings. He's 60-1. This number is dropping. Earlier in the week, it was higher than this. But Robert McIntyre, he won 2 big boy golf tournaments last year, the Canadian Open and the Scottish Open. He is an elite total driver of the golf ball. He's a great short game player. And so far in 2025, it's been the putter that has let him down. And he's traditionally a good putter. He's played at Augusta National twice. He's finished in the top 25 both times. And he putted well both times when he was at Augusta National. So I think this is a really good spot for Robert McIntyre. When you also look at his approach play, he is a really good long iron player. So I think 60-1 is a good way to access Robert McIntyre. Now, I do want to mention one thing. I'm just kind of talking about like different bets to make on different guys, different formats to play different guys in, right? So in terms of like bets to make on a guy, I really like Brooks Koepka with like a top 5 this week, which on DraftKings is currently 5-1. Basically, Brooks Koepka is a guy that you're going to know by probably about hole 12 of his round on Thursday, whether or not he's got it or don't got it for the week. And if he's got it, Brooks Koepka is a guy that when he brings it at major championships, he is going to finish near the top of the leaderboard. So I think a Brooks Koepka top 5 makes a lot of sense. I feel the exact same way about Cam Smith down here, 8.5 to 1 to make a top 5. Now, both of these guys' form on LIV leaves a lot to be desired, but they're two guys that pretty much, you look at their track record at major championships, no matter how their form is coming in, they're going to show up and they're going to play their game. And usually that means playing well. Brooks Koepka is just a guy that is just a fairway in greens fiend, and that has played pretty well at Augusta here. He has 2 runner-up finishes here. And then Cam Smith just has super magic short game when he's at Augusta National. He's a very poor driving accuracy player, but that doesn't get him in too much trouble at Augusta National. So I think that both these guys, Cam Smith and Brooks Koepka, they're good guys to bet as winners. I don't think I would go that far, but they're great, like top 5, top 10 bets. To me, better so in that market than like DFS plays, because there is equity where like they could miss the cut or they could give you like a T47 or something like that. But I think that both of them have enough upside that I think a top 5 bet makes a whole lot of sense for those two guys. All right, now let's go ahead and that's kind of it for the outright bets. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at pools, right? So this week, a lot of offices around the world or groups of friends are probably having pools for the Masters. And, where everybody just kind of puts a little bit of money in, picks their golfers and sees like who has the best lineup, right? It's not dissimilar to DFS in that you do want to kind of think about ownership as you go through. And so the particular pool that I'm looking at is a pool that I'm going to be entering. It's run by a mutual friend of mine that it generally gets pretty big. Like I'm talking like 70 or so people in it. And so I do want to think a little bit about ownership, but I do also want to think about the best plays. Now, the way he did his pools, the way he did his groups, I am generally a fan of it. He is a ball knower. He did use the data golf rankings as opposed to the official world golf rankings. And so, it is kind of sorted into comparable groups that, are equitable to the LIV players as well. However, one thing I think that he should have done, I think he should have made his group 1 smaller here. Like, let's be honest, group 1, you could probably just get away with the top 5 players for group 1 this year. I don't think anybody is going to be playing anybody near the bottom half of group 1 in any pools. So let's go ahead and talk about my strategy for office pools. And then we're going to kind of make my picks live here on the show for this one, right? So group 1, it's your typical best golfers in the world, right? I am standing on business that I think Rory McIlroy wins this Masters tournament. I do. I have a lot of conviction that I just think it is the time. He's never been playing better coming in. Rory McIlroy is going to be my pick. I am sticking with him in my group 1 pick for this office pool, knowing that he's probably going to be pretty highly owned. Like this group 1, the highly owned players are probably going to be Scheffler and McIlroy. I would say Rahm and Xander are probably going to be 3 and 4. Maybe, if you got a little more casual audience, Bryson might be number 5. But I just really think that Rory is going to be my guy. And this is the group where if one of these guys wins the tournament, you're going to have them to win money. So I think it is wise in this group to pick who you think is going to win the tournament. And then in later groups, look to get different and create ownership leverage. Not that dissimilar to playing DFS, right? In terms of playing the chalky top of your lineup and looking to get different with the value plays later down the board. Now, group number 2. It's a very interesting fair here. The way the data golf rankings worked, I don't know how some of these guys found their way into group 2. But basically looking at it, I think the popular picks in the group 2 in this pool are going to be Hideki Matsuyama and Ludwig Oberg. I think that those are the 2 biggest names, especially for golf fans. Ludwig coming off the runner-up last year, Hideki being a former champion here. I think they are going to be popular. I'm going to steer clear of both of them. I'm going to be picking Robert McIntyre. I just went over in the outright segment how much I think he is a great course fit for this course. He's got good form coming in. He just checks a lot of boxes for me. And I think Robert McIntyre is the type of guy that I'm going to be playing in a lot of different formats this week, because you think about playing him here, right? Like, we don't need him to win the tournament, but some of these guys down here that in this group are pretty volatile. If McIntyre just gives me a T8, like that's going to be pretty good and going to be good enough to win me some money in this pool, probably, as long as I get the rest of my picks right. Now, tier 3. This is an interesting one. This is like a wide variety of names. Basically, the highlights in my tier 3, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on audio, the most popular players are probably going to be Victor Hovland and Jason Day and Sung Jae Im. maybe Wyndham Clark. Like those are kind of like the big names in this group. But I'm kind of interested in not playing someone popular in this group. There are two names that I'm looking at, and I'm going to be making my decision between. It's Aaron Rye and it's Maverick McNeely. Aaron Rye, we mentioned on the show yesterday how he's just a really good middle to long iron player, and this is a course that's going to test your middle to long iron game. He keeps it in play off the tee. He's world traveled, so I don't think, even though he's a debutant here, I don't think a whole lot of different environments are going to give him a lot of trouble. So I really do like Aaron Rye at this tournament. And then Maverick McNeely, it's kind of hard to like downplay how good he has been recently, right? Like this is a guy who was pretty much just a putting specialist in his time on the PGA Tour, and now he has really leveled up, and he's also become a great ball striker, and also become just an all-around good driver of the golf ball and good approach player. And it shows in his recent results, right? Like T32 in Houston, T3 at the Valero, and runner-up at the Genesis so far this season. Like that's and you look at the numbers, like he's been playing really well. So I think Maverick McNeely makes a lot of sense. So it's between those two for me, Aaron Rye and Maverick McNeely. They're both debutants, ironically. I think I'm going to stick with Aaron Rye. I'm going to stick with that tried and true mid to long iron king as my group 3 player there. Now, group 4 is a fun one because we've got major champions, we've got big time names, we've got a lot of familiar faces in group 4 that really, to me, creates a lot of different options for, going here. We've got Brooks Koepka, Will Zalatoris, Tony Finau, Adam Scott, Brian Harmon, Tom Kim. Those are all big time names, right? Like even if you don't, Tom Kim's a big time name. He had a full episode of Full Swing about him, right? So people know who Tom Kim is, even casuals, especially if you watch Full Swing, right? So really, there's a lot of different guys that I could see getting ownership in this group. And so to me, this is a group that I am more concerned about getting it right as opposed to playing the popular play. I think the most popular play is going to be Brooks Koepka because look, it's a major. You play Brooks Koepka in a major. It's not rocket science. And I think that a lot of people are going to do that. I have no problem with doing that myself. But looking at how I've kind of created the rest of my lineup, I really want to get a little bit more leverage here. And I'm going to be going with Will Zalatoris. Basically, Will Zalatoris has never finished outside the top 10 at this golf tournament. And you might argue that he doesn't have the best form coming in. Well, he didn't exactly have the best form coming into some of those other appearances either. But he's just somehow seems to find it at Augusta. He's a poor putter who putts well here. And he's a guy whose game is tailor-made to winning major championships because he is an elite mid to long iron player. So Will Zalatoris is going to be my group 4 pick. Group 5, I think you've got two names that are going to steal the spotlight. Now, again, this is from my pool, right? Like your pool might be different, but just, I do think that everything that I'm saying about ownership, everything that I'm saying about popular plays and good or bad plays, I think applies to pretty much any pool, even if the groups are shuffled, right? So group 5, I think the popular plays are going to be Jordan Spieth and Cameron Smith. But looking at the rest of the names, there's a whole lot of volatility here, right? Like I do love me some Thomas Dietrich. You guys know if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I love me some Thomas Dietrich. Sahith Theegala, super talented guy, like obviously has the game to win a major championship. But I think this is a group where I'm going to eat the chalk. I'm going to go with Cameron Smith. Now, he's not my favorite guy this week, but like we're going for upside here, right? And I think Cameron Smith, out of anybody in this group, probably has the most upside out of anybody. Now, group 6 is really just the rest of the field, excluding the amateurs, because the amateurs are in a separate category. So like this is just a massive group and it's really just a mess. I'm not going to talk about the entire group because that would take forever. But really, I think this is another one where I'm going to value getting it right as opposed to playing the ownership game because there's just so many guys in this group. Ownership's going to have to be spread out. So I really do like Justin Rose for this group. We talked about him yesterday. I feel like Justin Rose is just a guy who at this point in his career wants to show up at major championships. And last time I checked, this is a major championship. So I really do think that this is going to be a good week for Justin Rose. And that's a guy that I'm going to be getting a lot of exposure to this week. If I were not playing Justin Rose, if I wanted to get a little bit different, I think Phil Mickelson is actually a really smart play. Like Phil's been playing the best golf he has since he started LIV. And he already had a runner-up like 2 years ago at the Masters when he wasn't in good form. He just knows his way around this place. Lefties always seem to play well here at Augusta National, and they don't call him lefty for nothing. So I do think that Phil Mickelson would be a solid here, but I'm going to opt to go with Justin Rose at the top of that group. All right, that does it for the outright bets. That does it for the pool strategy. Let's take a quick breather, and then we're going to take a look at some prop bets. Before we continue, I do want to remind you there are places where you can get more information from me. First off, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike's Money Picks. I'm more than happy to give any information if you reach out to me on Twitter, but it's also where I tweet out all updates for the show to keep everybody informed of what's going on. I'm also in the Fantasy Corner Discord. Link is in the description on YouTube as well as on the audio feed. Basically, the Fantasy Corner Discord is a community of a bunch of people who play DFS for a lot of different sports. It definitely has a DFS tilt to it. I know this podcast isn't necessarily, big DFS, but if you play a lot of golf DFS, it's a place to go. It's a great community to be part of. And then also, I do write an article for my Patreon every single week where I profile my DFS core plays on DraftKings and FanDuel. I really just mixed the two names there, DraftKings and FanDuel. And then I post the top 10 for my model as well as the full write-up why. So if you would like access to that, the Patreon is where you would go. All right, now let's go ahead and continue. Like I said, we're going to take a look at some prop bets that we got access to this week, right? So one thing I do want to say is that, like, when you're looking at bets, my personal preference, this is kind of personal preference, I would rather do the top finish including ties, because that just ends having to do a whole lot of calculations and a whole lot of math if there ends up being like a T19 where you got to split it 7 ways or something like that. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather just have slightly odds to not have to worry about a tie. I know that if my guy is in T18, then I'm going to be sitting pretty for the week, right? But also at the same time, I do want to mention that top 20 bets have historically been some of the worst bets here at the Masters. It's kind of a bet that a lot of sports books are looking to take advantage on users on. And it's actually harder than you would expect it to for a guy to get a top 20, and the odds aren't necessarily always fair. The way I would get around this is I would make a top 20 parlay. So I would pick 2 guys that you think are going to do pretty well this week, and I would go with those 2 guys in a top 20 parlay. To me, that would be a way that I would be looking to get like a top 20 or even like a top 30 or top 40 bet. Now, one other thing that I would recommend here this week is this make them miss the cut. DraftKings has got a really good promotion on making and missing the cut. I'd recommend you take advantage of that if you have access to DraftKings Sportsbook. But one number that really stood out to me is a miss the cut number. Max Homa, a guy who hasn't made a cut at a professional golf event in 2025, is minus 150 to miss the cut. Augusta National is not a place that you just come in poor form and immediately start playing well. I have serious doubts about Max Homa's game. I think that Max Homa to miss the cut, I actually think that the odds on that are a little bit shorter than I would have personally had them. Minus 150 implies about a 66% chance of it happening, and I think that it is actually kind of more than that. So I really do think that Max Homa to miss the cut is a really solid bet. I will say this number is getting worse and worse, though. Like when I checked here earlier in the day, it was a lot closer to plus money than it is now. So if you want to hop on this one, you probably want to get on it pretty soon because that number is probably going to be changing quite a bit. Now, another one that I did want to look at was a few 3 balls from Thursday that I did think had sneaky good odds on them. Right. Really with 3 balls, like you really just want to try to target the best players in groups where they should be able to show up and be the best player. Right. To me, that's kind of like how I want to take advantage of 3 balls. I don't really bet a whole lot of like non-favorites in 3 balls. I think McIntyre to beat Horschel and Dunlap is a pretty solid bet in the round 1 3 ball. And then I need to find it. I know it was near the end of the round. I think that Cam Davis to win his is actually pretty sneaky. Cam Davis is a guy that has a really high ceiling. Austin Eckroat and Rafael Campos have no or poor history at Augusta, whereas Cam Davis was actually in contention down the stretch last year. I think that Matthew Pavone to beat Bubba Watson and Evan Beck is actually a pretty solid bet as well. So I think those 2 would be 2 that would be worth looking at. And then, here's another one. Patrick Cantlay to beat Matt Fitzpatrick and Rasmus Højgaard. That one's plus money for Cantlay, and that one just feels like stealing to me because Fitzpatrick's game is totally lost. Højgaard's game, he's never played this course. I'm generally not a big fan of his game long term, so I think that Cantlay at plus money to win that group is a really, really solid bet also. And then the other one that I wanted to look at, like I said, I know it's near the end of the round. I got to find it. John Rahm to win his feels pretty good also. Fleetwood and Clark. It's the very last one. That's why I thought it was near the end of the round. Thigala, Straka, and Burns. You got Seb Straka as the favorite here. Thigala, super volatile player. Sam Burns' game looks not that great right now. I think Straka at plus 145 is a pretty good 3-ball bet. So like I said, that's generally a market where it's not like super whole lot of action on. So if you know what you're doing, you can kind of get some really good numbers there. Now, There's another one that I want to look at. Some of these nationality markets can get quite interesting. So I'm not the biggest fan of Joaquin Neiman this week, but Joaquin Neiman is the top South American. Feels almost like an auto bet to me because you've got only Nico Echeverria, Jonathan Vegas, and Angel Cabrera competing against him. Angel Cabrera is literally coming from jail to compete in this tournament. Nico Echeverria is a debutant who is a short hitter whose game does not fit this place. And Jonathan Vegas is a ball striker with not good history here, who is not a good putter and probably not going to putt well on these greens. And even as much as I don't like him as much as other people do, the other people like talking about him like he's a top 5, top 10 golfer in the world. I'm not seeing it at all. I don't think his game suits Augusta very well at all. But all he would really need to do to win this one is just make the cut. That's really all we would be asking for. And so I think that's minus 175. I think that's a really, really solid number to get on that action. There was another one that I want to look at. I got to find it. It was not a nationality. That's why I'm not finding it there. That explains it. Hold on. Here we go. Top debutante. This is one that I want to talk about. So I'm got pretty strong convictions on 3 guys, top debutante, and they're set at a place where I could basically bet all 3 of them. As long as one of them ends up winning it, I could make a profit. Aaron Rai, Thomas Dietrich, Mad McNeely. Those are my 3 guys among the debutantes, y'all. We already talked about Aaron Rai and Mad McNeely, how good their game has been. Thomas Dietrich's a great driver of the golf ball who is also historically a great putter who has leveled up his approach play this year. He's also a guy who was really good in the major championships last year, so he's not going to be spooked by a major. He's not going to be spooked by playing in a different type of environment. So I really think that those 3 guys, Rai, McNeely, and Dietrich, I'm pretty darn confident that one of them is going to end up being the top debutante. And so that would be 3 bets that I would be looking to make, because if you get one out of all 3 of them, then you're going to end up winning the bet. Now, another thing that I did want to look at was the tournament props page. So there's some bets on here that are just like kind of wild. The big guns versus the field, where you can get Scheffler, McIlroy, Rahm, DeChambeau versus the field. That actually seems like a pretty reasonable number, plus 150 to bet the big guns. But I'm not necessarily looking to bet that. That just seems like a super volatile bet for me. Dang it. The one that I was going to look at, y'all, they actually took off. Oh, no, never mind. It's on another tab. Winning score. So the winning score right now is currently set at 276.5. I'll save you the math. 276 is 12 under par. So if you think that they're going to shoot better than 12 under par, then you would look at the under. Worse than 12 under par, you're going to take the over. Y'all, I would be inclined to take the over on this one. I think this week there's not going to be a whole lot of rain in the forecast. This course is not going to get soft. The tournament really wants this, like the people who run the Masters, they really want this tournament to play tough. They really want it to be difficult. They really want it to be firm and fast. So I really do think that winning score is going to go over that 276.5 marker. And I think that is a bet that I feel pretty confident about making at plus money. All right, y'all. That does it for this episode, though. We went over a lot of different markets, a lot of different bets, as well as how to approach office pools and how to attack those this week. If you're looking for more of a DFS tilt, like I said, you got my content on the Patreon. Also, check out yesterday's episode, because I'm definitely going to be playing a lot of DFS golf this week. And I definitely think there are different angles that you want to attack if you're playing DFS as opposed to just straight up betting. But anyway, hopefully you guys got all the information you need here on this episode to pick out some winners this week. If this video helped you in any way, please hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. And if you're listening on audio, please rate and review, because it helps me out a ton. But that's going to do it for this episode, y'all. In case you cannot tell by my general vibe, I'm super excited for this golf tournament. I love Masters Week. I love this golf tournament. And I'm really just hoping that we have a good Masters. And I hope that it's a profitable Masters for me and for you. So best of luck to you guys this week. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.